I'm sorry, give me just one moment, please. I just got an important phone call I need to finish up. If you guys could please give me just a moment.
Okay.
Okay. Hello, good afternoon. Thank you guys for holding. I really appreciate it. I'm sorry, I just had a kind of like an informant call on another case, and I have a police officer willing to tell me everything. So, luck would have it to be right now. So, anyways, how are you guys doing?
You're okay.
You're all right, thank you.
Good. And we have an investigator here with us. I see your name. I don't want to kill it. So, can you help me?
Sure, it's Ken Tisdale.
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 Tinsdale. Okay. All right. I'm Attorney Lewis. Yes.
Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you too.
Yes, I'm glad we could have this conference call so that we could finally get together. We've been working with Ken for a very long time. He's brought us very, very far in this investigation. And as I mentioned earlier, I think he has very, very important information, and you know, he has the evidence now, I think, that can help support our case.
Okay.
So this was just really an introduction to start a discussion about that, but certainly it won't be the last one.
Yes, hopefully not. And so if it's my understanding that you have been very helpful along the way, and I am very interested in what you have available or what you found along the way, because it will help us, you know, get to the place where we need to be, and actually probably lead the day on getting appropriate claims before the court so that we're not tossed out. It'll be an integral part of the puzzle that we'll need as far as, you know, what you discover in your investigation. So do you mind sharing a little bit of some things that you think is important that you found?
Yeah, where to begin? There's quite a bit. So I guess the starting point that there's so many issues that we've got. So I'll just start at the beginning. The officers that arrived on scene did pretty much everything we would have expected them to do as far as the collection of evidence and those types of things. The photographs were good. I don't recall there being any video. Video would have been nice to have that, but there were photographs. The collection of the evidence was done well. Measurements, those types of things were done well. That's about where all the good work ends. The next steps that proceeded was when it was handed off to the detectives, they pretty much closed the case within, I'd say, about 24 hours. I marked it as a suicide, the police department did, and ruled it as a suicide, did not speak to any of Chemo's friends, didn't interview anyone. The police department doesn't have the authority in Texas to rule it a suicide, pretty much any state, really. That's got to come from the
I didn't
ME.
hear you. I didn't hear you said that they don't have the authority to do what with
To
suicide?
rule it a suicide.
Oh.
That has to come from the ME or from a judge. Those in the state of Texas, those are the only two that have the authority to rule death as suicide. Otherwise, it's listed as suspicious death. We have the police documentation on it, and they have written on that documentation suicide. And so that was extremely concerning to begin with. And my years in law enforcement, that's probably the worst thing you can have in a death investigation, is to go into it with a predisposed idea or opinion as to what has happened, because that will inevitably dictate how the remainder of the investigation is handled. So to mark it as a suicide, there was really not much follow-up done after that. No interviews, anything.
Okay, so I have a question about that. So it was the police department that indicated this is a suicide before the ME had an opportunity to make that determination?
The ME has never ruled it a suicide. The ME ruled it as a suspicious death. Undetermined. Yeah.
Okay. And even in the, did you get a copy of the autopsy where it has the investigation report?
We do. Yeah.
Okay. And so nowhere in there did they have that as any of the conclusions? Okay.
No, you won't see suicide anywhere on there. The police report's the only place that exists.
Okay.
So that's first and foremost concerning. I'll stick with the scene. The scene is very concerning as well. I went through training at Princeton University under advanced homicide investigation. I was taught by Dr. Henry Lee, who did the O.J. Simpson Nicole case. And this crime scene was extremely concerning in that the location being a parking garage. So if a suicide, in my experience with suicides, there's a lot of factors. Number one, the rates of African-American males who commit suicide by jumping from a tall height, a location, is extremely rare. It's extremely rare. And so first off, having that location as the site of his death doesn't really fit a profile that is common. The second piece is the location where his body was located is not a location where any individual would typically choose to jump. And the reason being, there is a lot of material down at the bottom of that location. There's a very tall wall, over 10 feet. There's heavy power equipment behind that wall, a lot of obstacles. And so most individuals, when they see things like that, choose to move to a different location to jump, because there's a higher likelihood that those objects are going to break your fall and you'll
Okay.
end up being a paraplegic or something along those lines.
Okay.
So the location was poor. Additionally, the location is in the back of the parking garage at the most secluded spot. Most that commit suicide will do so in an area either that is very, very remote, i.e. off a cliff out in the middle of nowhere, or they'll do it somewhere where it's more open. It's really one or the other. To pick a public area like that and pick that location is not the norm. The other issue is the wall, the distance in the wall, and I forget the numbers, we measured it. I want to say it's like 5 feet. Basically, I can stand between the wall, place my arms out, touch the wall, and touch the parking garage with the tips of my fingers.
Oh,
So that space is extremely narrow.
okay.
His body was found in between the wall and the parking garage. He did not come into contact with the top of the wall. We went to the halfway point of the parking garage and the very top of the parking garage. We did look at the garage with a drone and kind of examine the environment around it. But we tested from the halfway point, which was, I believe, like floor 4 to 6, somewhere in that range. I've got all this documented, I just don't have it in front of me. And we tested that spot and simply took a rock and dropped it out over the edge. The rock from the midway point hit the top of the wall and bounced over into the lot behind it. We went all the way up to the top, did the same thing with the top, and the rock literally went several feet beyond the wall.
Okay.
Reason being, anytime you have a wall or something like that, the natural airflow tends to come down the parking garage or cliff or whatever, and it's going to move outward as it's coming down by the ground. And so there's a natural airflow that occurs that pushes everything outward. And so looking at that, the distance that you've got, when you look just visually, and our drone pictures and our photographs really give you a good impression of this. Visually looking from those locations, looking down, the mindset is there's no way in the world you're going to be able to land inside the wall and the parking garage. It really looks as though the place you'll end up landing is on the wall or the equipment behind it. And
So tell me the difference between somebody choosing to jump and somebody being thrown, and how that would affect the decision making as it relates to the if somebody were to have caused him to be pushed off, and whatever equipment that you're saying is down there, not breaking that fall. What would be the difference in that?
yeah, so the difference is because of the distance there, just simply placing an object, and we weren't hanging it way out over the end of the parking garage. We were just getting it past the end of the parking garage and dropping it, and it was ending up on the other side. If a person was going to go over that wall, you've got a couple options. You can run and jump over the wall. You can grab the wall, jump up and jump over. You can sit on the wall and go over that way. No matter what, if you're sitting on the wall and you go to jump off, you're going to have to push yourself forward slightly and up and off the wall to get your body weight off the wall.
Okay.
Just that simple action alone, you're going to end up on the wall or on the other side. For his body to end up where it is, and keep in mind, his head and his feet were parallel with the wall. So he wasn't turned. If you're jumping, you're typically going to either go head first as you rotate, or you're going to land with your feet, and your body's going to be pushed up against the wall in kind of a crouching position.
Okay.
We commonly saw that when individuals were jumping. You'll see them land in that position with their body slumped into an object. His body was lying parallel to it. So lying parallel to it with the distance of the wall from the parking garage, it seems more likely that he would have to be rolled off of the ledge to end up down there. You literally aren't going to be able to push him or throw him or do anything. To place a body up there and roll them over, that's about the only way that we could see you would end up on that side of the wall. Anything more that had any forward momentum whatsoever would end up on the other side of the wall. And so our concern is, and it's been that way from the very beginning, that Chemo was either unconscious or already deceased before he went over the wall. We were initially concerned. We looked into the most probable explanation, which was he ran every morning. He was in his running clothes. He had his headphones and everything like he would do every day. Our initial concern was that he was running and it was a hit and run. Somebody didn't see him and they hit him and threw him into the vehicle and then dropped him over the other side. We couldn't find any evidence of that. Usually there's going to be additional damage that's caused from that vehicle accident. And it's certainly going to show up in the autopsy. There was no pooling of blood that had previously been there. Everything was consistent with the injuries from that fall.
Okay.
We didn't find any abrasions on his clothing, any abrasions on his shoes, nothing along those lines. So first and foremost, the whole scene, the scene just doesn't make sense.
Okay.
The time of day also doesn't make sense. And the idea that he's going to go for a jog, if a person is going to commit suicide, there's a number of factors that play into that. Number one, depression and all those things. Usually their friends around them know something's not right. Family certainly knows something's not right. But very, very, never in my career, and we've been looking at statistics, but very, very rarely were individuals exercising and decided to commit suicide. There's a couple reasons for that. Exercising brings about endorphins, which actually makes you feel better.
Right.
And so the idea that he would be out running and doing those things, doing what he enjoys, getting that endorphin rush, the mental condition that he would have to overcome that and still be determined to commit suicide is pretty amazing. It's quite frankly unbelievable. So that is an additional concern with it. Taking his headphones, having his headphones in, he still had his headphones up through his hoodie, had him connected to his phone, had his keys with him, had everything. It just doesn't match the scenario that we would expect at a suicide. So all of those things come into play. The let's see, the
Well, one thing I would mention is from this telephone, we saw that, excuse me, there were Google instructions for being driven to that garage in his phone.
I remember you mentioning that.
And I've saved the individual files, but also no one catches a ride to go commit suicide. So we feel he was picked up by someone who lured them out that morning.
And Chemo looked up the address for that place at about 10 minutes to 4. And we see that on his phone. So he looked up walking directions there because Chemo didn't have a car in college. But somehow we see also these directions and there's a car icon. And then there are audio, the instructions, the audio version, where he gets there within 5 minutes.
Yeah.
we
So it's-
walked it from his apartment and went there. Walking it and looking at running and everything, granted we're old and not in the kind of shape that he is, but to go from his apartment there in 5 minutes. Not to mention, there's multiple intersections along the way. And he's got to cross an interstate to get over there. He'd have to be sprinting. His clothing wasn't covered in sweat. All those things.
Okay.
No, you would have to be really moving to do that. There was no way he got there in 5 minutes.
Oh,
Yeah.
Also, then the other thing is that, okay, taking all of that into account though, just LPD closing the case officially in about 5 or 6 weeks.
5.
And since that time, we've been struggling and fighting to get the evidence so that we could continue to support our own investigation.
Okay.
And even to this point in time, there's evidence that they have not released to us. And his physical clothing, for whatever reason, was adulterated, was contaminated when Ken picked it up. So as there's just so many things like that that make us very suspicious of the police intent. And first of all, calling it a suicide and without an investigation, and then doing everything they could to block our own investigation.
Right.
Yeah, the county attorney, Matt and I went, we were arguing, well, not county attorney, I think he's the city attorney.
Mhm.
We went round and round with him for weeks trying to get the evidence released. Initially, there was an agreement to do it, and then they changed it. We were dealing with the DA's office initially, and they were cooperative to a point, and then they stopped being cooperative, and they basically told us that they were not going to reopen the case. I called and spoke with some sergeants, worked our way all the way up to one of the, we lost. Do you want me to keep going till they come back on? Or?
Oh, we lost. Oh, okay. Yes. Oh, yeah. I didn't see that. We lost him. I could just see you. Okay. Yeah, you can. They know. I'm sure they know.
Yeah, they know it. And so I talked to them. I told them my background, and I said, "Look, this is bad. I mean, you and I, we don't have to sit and fight on this. You and I both know how these investigations should be done, and this is bad." One of them, the supervisor, actually agreed with me. He said, "Look, I'm retiring in a couple of weeks," and he said, "I can't go into everything, but he goes, I'm with you. A lot of things should have been done differently." The sergeant refused to reopen the case. I put everything in front of him. He refused to do it. And so I basically said, so in the city of Lubbock, if I want to kill somebody, I just need to throw them from a height, and you're going to rule it a suicide. Is that how this works? And he got mad and hung up. I ended up meeting with the city attorney, and he was supposed to release all the evidence to us. The DA's office had said that if they turned over possession of the evidence to us, that the case could never be prosecuted in the future. And I said, "What kind of a statement is that?" And she said, "If we turn it over to you, we can't use the evidence any longer." And I said, "Look, I know the legal system, and
that is a point, because if I'm looking at it from a criminal defense attorney side, and I know that the evidence, the chain of custody has been broken.
Yeah, but see, that's the key. So you have to prove the chain of custody has been broken. So just chain of custody doesn't mean purely in the custody of law enforcement. It means the chain of custody accounts for every action of that item of evidence. And every action, you are able to document and prove that the evidence wasn't altered through every step of its transition and movement. In fact, the chain of custody that they had, we put it under a stronger chain of custody than what they ever had. And my company and my people, we, to give you an idea, I've done this for almost 30 years now, and our chain of custody, we took over the evidence for Kansas City Police Department. They had an issue that occurred there where there was a fire, and the water system damaged a bunch of the evidence. When the cleaning company came and opened up the Sally Port doors, there was literally syringes floating in water and things like that. So we were engaged to come in and take over the entire evidence facility. It was a 40,000 square foot facility with over 1 million items of evidence. And so we went in there and we wrote up a process and a protocol for chain of custody to handle all 1 million items of evidence, to transition all 1 million items from its current location to a new location that we identified that was in a more secure location. We moved 2 semi-tractor trailer trucks of evidence a day. We moved all the evidence in 90 days, over 1 million items of evidence, taken out of its bag, cleaned, dried, and replaced in new packaging with all the documentation, the name of the case and everything. 1 million items of evidence moved, not one single item misplaced, not one single item accounted for, challenged 5 times in court. The judge ruled that the precedent had been set that if LCG did the work, that it could not be argued any longer for defense to be able to use it as an argument. So the chain of custody that we do is flawless. We take more photographs than the police take. We video record everything that we're doing. The evidence is maintained in proper temperatures, everything. We document everything. And so and again, I come from my majority of my career, even though I have all the experience in homicide investigation and narcotics and all the other things I've done. My primary role was I ran an ICAC unit on the East Coast and handled all the internet crimes against children all throughout New England, Southern New York, Vermont, New Hampshire, Massachusetts, Connecticut. And so the evidence that we're dealing with was electronic evidence. And we had to account for not one single bit or byte changing in everything we did. So evidence is something that I know better than my own wife. And, to make the argument that just because you're giving it to another group, agencies transfer evidence between agencies all the time, and no one ever questions it. The chain of custody is we take all their documentation, we take all their information, and our job is to continue the same standard of documentation or better all throughout the process. And we did that. And so for her to argue that, it was a bad argument. Once you prove that I've spoliated evidence, then we've got an issue. But you've got to prove that, or at least create reasonable doubt.
Right, because remember, the defendant does not have any burden of proof.
So you've got to create reasonable doubt. And with our evidence process, good luck. It just won't happen. And so for her to just carte blanche say,
yeah, if you feel that you can do that here, then that's something that you could probably convince them of.
Well, and so, but they just stuck to their guns on that. And so here's how bad their chain of custody is. I got literally thrown out of the city attorney's office and not allowed to come back. He was supposed to turn over evidence to us. And we had discussed for months of trying to get this. And we had agreed as to what evidence he was going to give to us when we came out to Lubbock and went to pick that up. So we made the drive out there, came in the night before, and started picking up evidence. One of the first evidentiary issues, well, this is before that. So he was supposed to turn over video surveillance that they had gathered. We asked for the original evidence that they collected from the locations and any copies that they had of that evidence. They agreed that they would turn all that over. We asked for the body cam footage because a couple officers had used the body cams of to record video that was at one of the hotels. And then we wanted the body cam footage of any of the officers arriving on scene. And so when we got there, the amount of video footage they were supposed to have was supposed to be on a hard drive, and it was supposed to be the original. He gave me a DVD. And so I said, this isn't enough video. Where's the rest of it? And he said, no, that's all of it. And I said, no, it's not. And I need to see the chain of custody documentation for the download of it. What was the hash values of the download when you took it off the body cam? What was it on your device when you moved it over to it? He said, no, I don't have any of that. And I said, well, you have to. This is evidence in a case. And he goes, it's not evidence. And I said, it is evidence. I said, how did you come up with this DVD? And he said, the officers looked through all their video and they determined what was relevant and they put it on the DVD and handed it over. And I said, that's not what we agreed to. We agreed to a time frame, from this time frame to that time frame, the beginning of their shift to the end of their shift. And then we agreed that if there was video that was redacted out of that, such as going in the restroom or the names of individuals or something on other cases, that had to be documented and could be redacted out. But we never agreed to them determining what it was relevant.
Right.
And he said, you don't get to decide what's evidence. I decide what's evidence, and I've decided it's not evidence, it's just video. And I said, oh, okay, I'm recording this conversation, so that's amazing. And he sat back in his chair and he crossed his
I was
arms.
gonna ask if you had it recorded.
What's that?
Mhm. I was gonna ask if you had it recorded.
Oh yeah. And so he leaned back in his chair and he gave me this smirk and just kind of like, what are you gonna do? And I said, I leaned across the table and I said, don't smirk at me and act this way. And he just kind of like smiled. And I said, do you think this is funny? And he actually laughed. And I said, this is somebody's child that we're talking about. And you're going to sit here and laugh and think this is a joke. And I got up out of the chair and stood up over him. And a couple other city attorneys came in and everything else. And they were like, you're going to have to leave. And I grabbed all the evidence and had a couple of real interesting words for him. It's all on recording, but to them, this was a joke. They decide what's evidence. They decide what's relevant. I explained to him, not one interview. I've interviewed every single friend of Chemo's, every acquaintance, former teachers. We've talked to everyone. The first question we asked every one of them is, who's talked to you so far? Every single one of them said, no one. We said, no one from the police department, no one from the DA's office, no one. We have never been spoken to about this by anyone. And I said, okay. And they said, this is the first time that anyone's talked to us. We asked every single one of them, you knew Chemo, what would you say 0 to 100, 100 being definitely, I'm not surprised he committed suicide. There was a lot going on, and 0, absolutely no way in hell. Every single one of them said 0 is too high of a number. There is absolutely no way that Chemo killed himself.
Wow.
We have video from one of his friends gave us the video from his phone. They were out the night before the early morning where his body was found. They were out at a nightclub and some things, and there's video of Chemo smiling, laughing, they're joking. They were celebrating the fact that they were about to move into their new apartment. They were about to get their new place. They were excited about it. They were making plans. Chemo was making plans for that. He was excited. they were celebrating the next stage of everything they were going to be doing together.
Did
None
Kimo
of
send
it-
any text messages that night, when he, at all to anybody?
Did Kima do what?
Send
Send
text
text
messages.
messages. Yeah, I'm trying to remember. I believe there was just a couple short ones. And
Right.
there was, oh, I'm trying to remember around the parking garage.
There's actually there's during early on in that evening, there is a lot of texting
Yeah.
back and forth with friends that we know and a few that personally I didn't know. And there's one
Okay.
particular individual, the same one I've been asking about, goes by the name Strangle Squad. That one suddenly contacted him 2 days before, and the conversation continued. And he falls off the radar on that night, the night of the 7th. And you don't hear, anything about him. That
So
is a person of concern.
Communication, he ends all communication with Kimo on the night that he passed, like, so he didn't try to, as though he knew he had passed away? Or the
Yeah,
morning?
he says, I've gotten into town and I'll, something like, I'll look you up later, something like that. And that was the 7th in the evening.
Okay.
Now, there's a lot of deleted material. And this individual also preferred Instagram or Snapchat. That's why we tried to get hold of Snapchat to release some, what they had, but they said they wouldn't do that unless it was a court, order.
Okay.
So that's an individual that is curious, he's out of town, from out of town. There's a truck at the garage that is most likely also from out of town. This individual, however, is known to several people at Texas Tech because they all chat in a group. So
Mhm.
that's one. Now, there were others, Kimo's friends, they were talking about, what parties they were going to. He said, they were at their apartment and then they were going to, I think, the library. These are people known to us. And some of them were with him, his roommates. Those we don't have issues with, but it's a couple of others that definitely are suspects because they went quiet, the conversations cut off right, early morning that day.
And also just getting back to the videos and the original source media.
Mhm.
We got videos from the Hyatt Hotel that is right across from Kimo's apartment. Now,
Okay,
even if Kimo had left walking or jogging, it would have picked him up on his cameras.
okay.
And
it's not-
when we look through the videos from the Hyatt, about on average 5 minutes, something was happening to activate the cameras. But for whatever reason, we know that Kimo left his apartment around 4:15 a.m. But for roughly from about 4:10 a.m. to, I don't know, about 4:25, there's no videos captured. So that was one reason why we wanted the original source media, because what came from the police service seemed to have gaps.
Okay.
Also, Ken, if you remember that the Uber that you traced to New York,
Mhm.
that video, that clip didn't come from the police. It's actually it was released from Raider Park to the other PI in Lubbock.
That we
And-
initially hired.
But the police somehow don't have those videos. And
Right.
she went and played it to them and asked
Oh.
them, how is it that your clips your footage don't have this clip? And they
Mhm.
just dismissed her.
Yeah, and
So
that's the problem with all this was because in their mind, they had already ruled it a suicide. There was no reason to take the effort or time to go around and collect video and watch video and look into that.
Okay.
They had already in their minds ruled it a suicide.
yeah, but there was one police officer who actually cited a truck, told us there is a suspicious truck and a sedan at the garage in one of the videos. But he said the clip was too fuzzy. They couldn't make out the, registration. plate, but that's the same police officer who actually gave us a number, who pointed us to Celebrite.
Celebrate, yeah.
He was
Yeah.
very, very helpful, but he didn't have any teeth.
Yeah, I mean, he had to follow the instructions of his superiors.
Yeah,
So, that's just a brief rundown of some of the challenges, but hopefully with this introduction, Ms. Lewis, we can start providing you with more detail that would give you ammunition. Ken, you did mention that you've kind of been writing a report or something to that effect?
Oh, yeah, we have a pretty extensive report. Matt's maintaining all the documentation.
Great.
And that, so we have a pretty extensive report. Now, we also, we have a video forensic server that enhances video and does that. We've gone through the video. The company that makes the software for it has a new release out. And I also want to tell you, on the phone information, Celebrite is coming out with a new version next month. And FTK, which is another forensic software that we use on computers, they're coming out with a mobile version. And we spoke with the programmers on it. They have enhanced features now that will recover Snapchat and a lot of things that before could never be recovered.
Wonderful.
And so we're waiting for those releases, and we're going to run that back against the image. So, one of the advantages, the things that we can't get today, we've just kind of been waiting. Little by little, technology's been getting better. And as it does it, every single time a new release comes out, we run what we have up against it, trying to see if we can get more. So.
Okay,
That's-
that's wonderful.
Okay, yes, that's good news. Well, I have, I look forward to the report. I don't know whenever you're going to be able to give me the report that you have so far, but I look forward to that. And I don't know if you want to be a part of our monthly meetings, but it's our plan to meet monthly. I actually have, I can actually share this before I send the plan over to you guys. I have like just this preliminary plan. This is just a short preliminary plan on like the steps that I want to implement going forward, and getting us to to a suit, to be able to file a suit, and do so successfully. And part of that includes these monthly meetings, so that we can keep up to speed on what's going on, and come up with additional ideas and plans on what to do next, and so forth. So if you are willing to be a part of that, and then you and I, we can meet outside of that. If you come up with an idea, or if I come up with an idea that I need movement on, that would be great too.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, Noble and Kentucky are like family to us. We've gotten to know them extremely well, and
Awesome.
anything we can do to get this, they deserve so much better than this.
Okay, good. That sounds
that's true. We have become friendly.
That's so true.
Yeah.
special. So I'm glad to be a part of whatever you guys are working towards, this team that you guys are working towards. So, and I'm new, so give me a little, I guess, grace in catching up and figuring everything out. But I do have a plan, and that, it really just involves us continuing to move forward with the investigation, me catch up to speed with everything you have, obviously, Ken, and then try to see how I can weave that into my plans as far as a lawsuit is concerned. I have to do a lot of research as it relates to case law and bringing this type of claims. These are very difficult claims to bring. And what I mean by claims, like, obviously we'll have the wrongful death if we get to that place, but leading up to that, we will have a claim that I'm going to be working towards for obstruction of justice, the conspiracy to obstruct justice. And that is not easy to do. And as a matter of fact, the courts really frown upon that. They don't like us digging and pointing at their government officials saying that they're committing, a civil crime for lack of better description. And so we have to come strong. It can't be anything, weak or feeble when we decide to shoot towards, blaming them for that. So anything that you have, I'm sure is gonna, right?
What are your thoughts on the whole qualified immunity that they're gonna?
Everything that you have is, I'm sure, is gonna help get me to where I need to be in order to make that. Okay, I didn't hear you guys. I'm sorry.
I think Ken said, he just had the question about how would you approach the qualified immunity?
Okay, yeah, so you know all about it. And so essentially, that is something that I deal with every day. That's my life. I deal with qualified immunity. It's not going to be easy. It's something that can you guys hear me? Am I broken up or anything?
You're breaking up a
You're
bit.
breaking up a bit.
Okay. So I deal with qualified immunity very often. It is normal. It's my normal course every day. Matter of fact, I'm complete. I have a brief today that's due. I have 2 briefs due today in the Fifth Circuit dealing with qualified immunity. One judge says, I won, you did a great job. And another judge comes back and says, nope, we're going to give him qualified immunity anyway. So I'm dealing with this every day. So I know my little windows that I can get into, and some judges agree, some don't. So the standard for qualified immunity is that I found success in getting through that window is just getting the facts to support that whatever these people did was not objectively reasonable. And that's the difficulty. Because even if you do find, let's say we do get to that point and we're able to show that what these individuals did was objectively unreasonable, we also have to then show that the law was clearly established. And so this has been already before a court. It's already been decided by a court. Something like this has already occurred. And in that case, the officers were put on notice from this point going forward that what you're doing is a constitutional violation and objectively unreasonable. And so I have two courses of research I have to be really strong with, and that's getting the facts, and then other getting the law. And sometimes the law, even though we have great facts to say, this is wrong, this is wrong, this is wrong, it's a constitutional violation. If it's never happened before, we lose. Mm-hmm. On qualified immunity. And I have a good friend that just dealt with a case where an officer was called to the scene because their loved one had doused themselves with gasoline. And when they arrived to the scene, they were saying, the family member said, hey, help him. He's suicidal. He doused himself with gasoline. He's going to set himself on fire. And he had a lighter in his hand. One officer, there was 2 officers that arrived. One officer decided the best course of action would be to pull out a taser and to tase him. The other officer told him, no, don't do that. It's going to be a bad, don't do that, it's a bad result. But what did he do? Shot him with the taser, and what happened? Ignited on fire. Yes, common sense for everybody around knew that was not a good idea. In any event, everybody agreed that it was unreasonable for him to do that, but that had never happened before.
Yeah. Wow.
Not qualified immunity.
Wow.
Yeah. So that's an egregious example, but there's so many or others that are more, narrow and not as obvious. And those are the more difficult ones for me, but I still that's where the fact finding is so important. It's so critical to say, this is, we might, so for example, with that case, there's another case I'd like to use also. Like there was a person in the jail that was suicidal, and that person actually tried to commit suicide in front of the jailer. And as he was trying to commit suicide in front of the jailer, he he tried to use the phone cord to do it. And so the jailer noticed that he was doing that and stopped him. He stopped him from doing it. And then so the next day, he tried again. And the jailer did not stop him this time. He watched him commit suicide and he killed himself. And they found that he was deserving of qualified immunity because nobody had hung himself with a telephone cord. So even though he sat there and watched him. But so I have to be careful with the facts that I plead. And I wouldn't say a phone cord. I would say a ligature.
Right.
I would find a different way to formulate that in that instance. So that's where the craftiness and creativity come from. I have to come, that comes in for me. And I have to, if I know that I can't find clearly established law, I got to find the law that's out there that's clearly established that I can make fit into our set of facts. And that's why I need a whole bucket full of facts to pull from.
Mhm.
So.
Yeah, what's always amazed me about this was the arrogance, and I think that's the foundational word for this case. The arrogance that comes from Lubbock PD, the arrogance that comes from the prosecuting attorney's office, the arrogance that comes from the city attorney. Every single group, the smug arrogance is beyond belief. And I told every single one of them, you would rather fight and argue this case with me, to argue and fight and spend all that effort to keep from opening the case. And that floored me because the one thing, I was a supervisor in law enforcement, and if someone called me and said, your officer screwed up and you need to reopen this case or I'm going to come after you, without even looking into it, the first thing I do, reopen the case. Because as long as that case is open, I don't have to produce anything. I don't have to do, it's a cold case. It can sit there for 20 years and no one will get their hands on it. That's how arrogant they were, was we don't need to reopen this case. We're convinced we're right. We're convinced we did a great job. We are not going there. We don't even need to take the effort to reopen it. When the reality is, the more prudent thing to do was reopen the case. You can tell me it's an active investigation. You're covered by the state of Texas. You're covered early. You're covered. You don't have to give me anything because it's an active investigation. That's how arrogant they were. And I even told them multiple times, I'm like, are you kidding me? I just, as a former supervisor, you would have had to handcuff me to keep me from reopening that case because there's too much risk to not do it.
Which would work to our benefit ultimately, because they can't say that there's this open investigation. Trust me, I hit that wall all the time. It's an open investigation. We have to wait till the investigation's closed, then we can give you the information. They don't have, it's arrogance and lack of common sense, I think.
Yeah. Yeah, but they're so focused on the arrogance and quite frankly, focused on Noble and Katunga. I think they're just tired of it. And how dare you question us? Again, to put a suicide on their document when they have no authority to do so. And then the prosecuting attorney looks at that and says, nah, that's what we ruled.
They're in their bubble. They're in their
authority.
Yeah, they're in their bubble and they know that wherever you turn, they're going to be protected by everybody in decision-making roles there in the county and city. So because they're in that bubble, they feel safe. But the federal, aspect of things that we're going to bring is going to change a lot of things.
Oh, good. And
yeah,
I've got friends in law enforcement all over, and a good friend of mine from the Texas Rangers, I put the case in front of him and I said, take a look at this. He looked at it and he said, this is horrible. He said, I can't believe they're not reopening the case. And he said the same thing I did, is reopen the case. What have you got to lose? And they wouldn't reopen it. Well, he's bound with the Texas Rangers to, have certain things occur, and they
Right.
basically wouldn't allow him to pick it up and run with it.
Yeah.
But again, he looked at and I said, look at it objectively. Again, all of our experts in the company, we have 10 experts that work here.
Okay.
Every one of our experts, they all come from law enforcement. We will not hire an expert until they've testified over 100 times. They had to have been in an area of investigations, specifically in the area of high criminal investigations. They had to be a supervisor. They had to be in that role for more than 5 years. So everyone that we've got has got a lot of experience. We put this case in front of them, and not one of them said, nah, I don't know. I think it's kind of shaky.
Really?
Every one of them could not believe all the things that have occurred. So I'm not being biased in my opinion, because I've gotten to know Noble Katange and learn about Chemo's life, but I've remained very objective. Now
Okay.
I'm just pissed. This is just wrong.
Yeah. Well, I hope that we can continue to work together, but I think that, and I love the Texas Rangers, by the way. I have a lot of law enforcement in my family. I sue the cops all the time. But I have a lot of law enforcement in my family, from FBI agents to, and friends and so forth, to just, regular patrol officers. I have a cousin that's really high up in the Houston Police Department, the Sheriff's Department. And so they know their cousin, and there's my brother-in-law is also in law enforcement in Brazos County. And I run my cases by them all the time. And I think it makes them better officers, actually. I think it helps them to protect themselves and know what's right and, what they should be doing and not. But with that being said, I love the Texas Rangers. They have always been helpful to me because they come from the perspective of just, getting it right and not covering for, bad officers. These people who don't take their job seriously and just use it to just overexude the authority that they should have available to them. So I absolutely love. I trust when you say it, that they they look at this case and feel strongly about it like you do, but also have their hands tied, which is kind of a good thing, because they get to remain neutral and not we don't have to worry about them being tainted. But with that, we'll do what we can to get them what they need, or even the Department of Justice, once we get to where we need to be. Actually, if we get good information at the end of the day, we can always go to the Department of Justice and seek recourse there as well. But from the civil side, we'll have a lot more tools. But I don't want to file a case and get us dismissed early on because we don't have enough facts, we don't have enough information. And then once we're dismissed, we do not get to come back. It's over.
Right.
Right.
Also, there was one other thing I wanted to bring up, Ms. Lewis. We did send, I think, an email regarding this, that we've been put in touch with an investigative reporter out of Lubbock who is interested in Chemo's story.
Okay.
And we actually have an introduction set up for this coming Tuesday.
Okay.
So we've gotten feedback from Charles and Ken regarding their feelings about that. And, we'd like to get yours as well when you have the time.
Oh, she did send it.
Oh, I didn't
Yeah.
know.
Yeah.
And I'm okay. If you're going to move forward with that, I'm okay. Just don't mention
Right.
any lawsuit or anything like that. As long as you
No,
keep that,
not at all.
that's
Ken-
fine.
Yeah, Ken and Charles gave us good pointers how to approach this, make it,
Yeah.
general, like, questions we have.
Yeah,
Why this, why was the case not investigated? Sticking to generalities like that.
yeah, but based
Yeah.
on facts,
Right.
similar to what we did in 2018 when we were interviewed
By the same channel.
by the same channel and
Yeah.
another channel later on that we did via Zoom.
Yeah, Fox.
Yeah, Fox. So,
Okay.
yeah, we will take the same approach of asking why there's video mentioned in a police report that they never gave to us, which is still true. So, things of that nature.
Okay.
Why nobody
Or
was
it-
ever
Or
spoken to.
have it made public, or have it made public. They could still make it, I mean, if they don't have to give it to you, they could just give it to everyone and let you see it.
Right.
Right. So, but they haven't
Yeah,
done
there
that.
is public interest, yeah. Mm-mm. Okay. But, so, our next meeting, we're set to have a recurring meeting, every 30 days. I guess we can coordinate with you, Ken, and see what the best time and date is for you. It could be on Fridays, that's fine with me. My practice is, overwhelming. And, I've actually quit taking cases, because it's just too many right now. And so, my time is limited. That's why I have to have a schedule, organized time to meet and talk to everyone. So, you guys let me know what you guys think is best, proposal day for us to meet, monthly.
Okay.
And I did put the, I said I was gonna share with you guys my timeline. Okay. And let's see. Okay. It's pretty simple. It's just, and I sent it already to you on my case.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, but, it's pretty simple. It's just, just continue the fact finding. Can you guys see this yet? It's kind
Not
of
yet.
frozen. Okay, yeah, still frozen on my end. And now I'm completely frozen. Can you guys at least hear me?
Yeah, we can
We-
hear you.
Yeah, we hear you. But we don't see anything.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
can
But it's,
see it.
It's frozen. I think it's frozen on my end, but basically, the plan is so far is just to keep the fact finding going, continue to investigate witnesses and leads on, other information, and then continue to research facts, like and then from other similar cases, like we talked about with Bradley and his family, see if there's anything else that's similar, any other cases like that, in the fact finding mission of things. And then me, I'm going to continue to do case law research to see if there's a different path that we can take. That's going to be continuing. I will always try to look for a path. And if I find one, we're going to take it. I expect this to be, I'm aiming for 12 to 18 months timeline on getting the case filed, unless we find a smoking gun sooner. If we find something sooner, then, we can run to the court. But my timeline based on what we have, I'm aiming from 12 to 18 months. And can you guys hear me still?
we can
Mhm,
still hear you,
yeah.
yes.
All right, and so, and then we're gonna continue with our reoccurring meetings, for 45 minutes, monthly. And then we're gonna, and that, which is, I put to include the investigators and other attorneys. Your other attorney can, he can, there we go. Can we see now?
No, not yet.
Not yet.
I'm not
I
frozen.
still got you. I never
Oh,
lost.
there it is, like magic.
Okay, now we
great,
see
great.
it.
Okay, and then also what expert we need, and yeah, bless you. What experts we need. This is just a short list. We probably will need more. We obviously, I didn't put the investigator, the police policy expert. I didn't put that here, so that we'll need, based on my conversation with Ken, I thought of some more experts we're going to need. So we'll need some of his experts. We're going to need a mechanical engineer so that they can kind of graft out what didn't make sense about chemo being thrown over this wall. We're going to want a pathologist to explain, how the injuries didn't make sense. based on the autopsy and so forth. So that's just some ideas right now that I have, but we'll add more to this, especially when we have our meetings, we'll include additional. And then I will file the lawsuit after we have strong facts to help us support the claim. And then it goes back to my aiming to 12 to 18 months, unless we get the smoking gun. And then I'm gonna, and then service of the lawsuit, just this lawsuit stuff, the discovery, the motions, and then the trial itself. And I anticipate appeals throughout the way. Whenever there's qualified immunity, best believe there's going to be an appeal, and that's gonna, delay things. And then if we have a trial, they'll probably appeal that as well. And we will too, if it doesn't go the way we need it to either. That's something that we can do as well. But if you guys have anything that you think that you want to see on the plan, or that you want to discuss in our further meetings or make sure it's a part of this plan, please let me know and I can add that. But these are my initial thoughts, and this is just a preliminary plan.
Okay.
Yeah.
Mhm.
But I can tell you, Ken has done a lot on the investigate, fact finding, that bullet.
Good, okay.
And leads on other information.
Yeah, so I
We
think
have
it's,
a whole lot of stuff there.
so I think it's just like getting Ken's report to you.
Yes,
So-
yeah.
Yeah, I'll have Matt send that to you next week. And, like I mentioned, the new software coming out is extremely powerful. Your case is the very first one we're going to throw out on as soon as they release it.
Okay.
And we're real hopeful, but, we'll throw that on. And so, as well, Ms. Lewis, is we just went through the process. Some of the things that got released to the public that we've gained access to. I spend a lot of money on technology. The licenses for the things we have, very, very expensive, very hard to get. We have access to government databases and a lot of things. But one of the things that we connected and tried to do and already hit a dead end, the companies that also all the apps that go on your phone, both Android and iPhone, they track majority of them track everything you're doing. A lot of those track location, who you're around, whatever, and they sell that information. We reached out to all of the agencies that sell that information and maintain those databases to ask if we could purchase the databases for the night before chemo was found. All the databases had expired with the exception of one. The one that did not expire, they didn't track what we needed them to track. The idea was if that had been released sooner, we could have basically identified chemo's phone. It goes through and identifies the cell towers, triangulates where he's at, and shows where he is. It also does the same with all the other phones. Now, it's not going to say chemo. It's going to have a ZIN number. And we're going to match that up with the other ones. But we can tell who's within a 5-foot radius of them at any given point in time. And so it's really a powerful tool for solving homicides and those type of things. The downside was the technology just really wasn't advanced enough at that point in time, and they didn't maintain the databases like they do now. So we already tried going that route. We were hoping we'd come across something, but that ended up not working.
Wow, okay. That's very interesting. Very interesting. I'm thinking about other cases that's
Yeah.
not too late for, but okay. I wonder, that's, how far does it go back?
2 years was the max. The majority of them did. Most of them maintained 1 year for their constant, because the whole purpose behind it is marketing, and marketing statistics go bad fairly quickly. And so most of the people that are buying it are only interested within the last 6 months to a year max. Anything outside of that is somewhat irrelevant in the marketing world. We're just getting creative in how we're using it.
Yes, I have a marketing degree, and I tell people that's the evil that we're afraid, everybody's really afraid of, but nobody's saying it. It's all, everything is driven by marketing. Facebook, everything is driven by marketing. If you take marketing out of the equation, all this stuff goes away.
Yeah.
And yeah, so I'm not surprised to hear that that is the origin of that technology is the.
One quick question, Ken. Did you ever get that company to look into the registration recovery, plate recovery?
So yeah, we called them. They were just recently sold to Axon Industries, which Axon owns the body cameras. They're the largest seller of the body cam equipment. They provide a lot of police equipment to the agencies. And so I reached out to them and they said, Axon put a hold on their release because they wanted a couple other features to be added in. The acquisition happened right at the time they were releasing their new update, and Axon put a hold on it. So they're telling us that it's supposed to have some more features than what they initially calculated, because Axon is funding it. It's a very large company. They have quite the facility. So the guys that were with the company, so I'll give you a little background on it. His father is Grant Fredericks. The owner of the company's father is Grant Fredericks. Grant Fredericks was kind of the founding father of video forensics and really had a lot to do with taking what's called frame averaging. Every second of video has 30 frames of video in it. You take 5 seconds of video and you now have 150 frames of video that you can compress into one photograph. And so if you can grab a second or more of video where an object is either coming directly at you or not moving from side to side, you can find as many frames as possible and compress them all in. So what the human eye doesn't see is in every second of video, there is light coming in that makes up pixels. And you're familiar with pixels and all that. So what we don't see is in one frame of 1/30th of a second, there are all pixels of light that are more lit up in certain locations than others. And then the next frame, the pixels will change and be more lit in others than that. Same thing happens with resolution. So what this program does is it takes a couple of seconds of video and it looks for the very best pixels in each frame out of each second. And it identifies the very best ones and it combines them with the other best ones. So you get the absolute best resolution, best lighting, and best quality video that you've ever seen. And I'll give you an example. I had a case where we had a shooting and a bank ATM picked it up. The bank ATM was placed in front of the vehicle. The vehicle's headlights were on. It was at night. This was in Vermont. It was at night. It was sleeting and snowing and raining kind of all at the same time. So from the video, all you see is jet black with two headlights looking directly at the camera. And when headlights are pointing at a camera at night, it's really bad because it's just going. On top of that, you've got rain and sleet coming down. So you've got all this stuff going on. All you see in the video is headlights. Everyone originally dismissed the video. I got a hold of it, ran it through that algorithm. Not only did I get an exact copy of the license plate, I was able to get the registration sticker in the window. So
wow,
that's how good this software is. So you know, they're making some tweaks to it, things like that, and that's what I'm waiting on. What it is, what's throwing it off in this case is the vehicles are moving. And so because the vehicles are moving, they're not remaining stationary, which are getting motion blur. And so this algorithm that they're making deals with that motion blur and it tracks it as it moves and it reduces the size of the image, because he's coming at you, it's actually, the pixels are increasing in size as he's coming closer. So it's looking at it from a digital standpoint in picking pixels and then maintaining the size of those pixels through digital compression. So real complicated, crazy stuff, but it's really intriguing when you
It
actually.
is, yes,
see
I'm
what it-
very
Yeah.
intrigued.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah,
So-
yeah.
You know,
Okay.
we'll keep on that. The stuff that again is coming out from Celebrite and Axiom, it's again pretty powerful. I don't know if you're familiar with the Signal app, but Signal is one of the most protected apps, texting apps.
Mhm.
When you're sending text messages, it encrypts the text. Edward Snowden, if you remember his name, stealing all the
Yeah,
secrets,
yeah.
it's the one product that he said the CIA used the most of. Celebrite just came out with a hack for it. So as Celebrite is going to the phones, it now hacks Signal. So
Oh.
they put a lot of efforts into increasing the ability of their next release, and we're pretty excited to get a hold of that. So
Wow. Okay.
So that's encouraging.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah.
Very.
It's great, but it's scary for.
yeah, for the rest of us. Yeah.
Yeah. I'm like,
Oh, the government's listening to everything.
I
we
don't
do.
know if I want everybody in my stuff like that, yeah, so. But anyways, thank you so much, for, you know, catching me up to speed this far, and, I look forward to your report, and we'll, in our next meeting.
Perfect. All right. I'll
Sounds
have
good.
Matt get that out to you at the beginning of the week, and if you've got any questions, we'll make sure our contact info is in there. You can call us.
Yeah, I was gonna ask, what is your email, or can you guys text me, put in my case's email address so I can add him to the case as well?
Yeah,
No
we can
problem.
send it. Good
Okay.
seeing you again, Ken, after a
Yeah.
Oh,
long
it's good seeing
time.
you guys. I missed y'all. So,
We're actually in Kenya.
are you really?
Yeah, yeah, we're in
Wow.
Nairobi.
No
We're heading to
kidding.
Mombasa tomorrow.
Yeah,
Is your
yeah.
daughter, is your daughter with you or no?
No, not this time.
No,
Oh,
she
okay.
came
All right.
December through
Oh, yeah.
January. This time she says she's
Should
working.
have the meeting there, my goodness.
Yeah,
Oh, great.
yeah, we had election. I came to vote.
Good.
Oh,
Good.
awesome.
Yeah, yeah.
I know.
Yeah.
Well,
And,
good.
and our brother-in-law won, so it was very
yeah,
good.
Oh,
was my-
wow. All right.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
All
my
right.
sister's husband, my late sister's husband.
yeah.
Okay.
Oh,
Yeah.
congratulations.
Thank you, that
Congratulations.
was good. Yeah,
Hey,
Yeah.
what was he running for?
governor,
Wow.
Nice, well,
governor.
congratulations.
yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
This would
Great.
be his second term.
Okay,
So that
Okay.
was good.
good news. All right, well, you guys take care, and, have a good weekend also.
You
Thank
too.
you.
All right, thank you.
too.
Enjoy.
too.
All right,
Okay.
Take care.
You too.
Bye-bye.
Goodbye.
All right, thank you.